Sir, you need to leave before I call security. The words cut through the polished silence of the Madison Avenue showroom like shards of glass. Crystal light dripped from chandeliers, glinting off white marble floors. Beneath them stood David Cole, 41, tall, composed, dressed in khaki trousers and a pressed navy polo, the uniform of quiet confidence. But in this world of tailored suits and private jets, he looked invisible. Across the counter, Amanda Whitmore, 29, blonde hair twisted into a perfect bun, didn't bother looking up from her iPhone. Her manicured fingers tapped across the glass surface with rhythmic impatience. She was the queen of this kingdom, or at least believed she was. Behind her, the glass facade revealed the gold-tinted canopy of Central Park in autumn. Inside, other clients, all pale skin and polished credit, sipped champagne while flipping through multi-million-dollar listings. The air reeked of exclusivity. Amanda finally lifted her gaze, eyes the color of ice water, scanning David with a practiced look of polite disgust. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone implying the opposite. "I'm interested in your investment properties," David replied evenly. His voice was steady, professional, the kind of tone used by people who've learned to stay calm while the world tests them. Amanda's lips curled into a faint smirk. "Investment properties?" she echoed, glancing toward her colleague Megan, who stood beside a filing cabinet pretending not to listen. "He means he wants a rental brochure, right?" Megan laughed softly. "Probably the outer boroughs." David ignored the commentary. "I'd like to speak with someone about your Fifth Avenue portfolio." Amanda leaned forward, resting her elbows on the counter as if confiding a secret. "Sir, everything we handle starts at $2 million, she said slowly, emphasizing each syllable like she was speaking to a child. "But maybe you'd feel more comfortable with a firm that deals in affordable housing." She slid a pamphlet across the marble, a crumpled flyer for low-income units in Queens. It landed near his shoes. Around them, no one intervened. The receptionist poured champagne for an elderly woman in Chanel. A junior agent hurried over to escort her to a private viewing suite. Every movement in this showroom was choreographed, except David's presence. He bent to pick up the flyer. The act was simple but deliberate. When he straightened, the gold edge of a luxury wallet flashed briefly beneath his jacket. Amanda didn't notice. She was already back on her phone. "Can I get your name for our security log?" she asked, not bothering to look up. "David Cole," he said. She typed slowly, mispronouncing it under her breath. David Cole. "And your reason for visiting?" "I'd like to invest," he said. "Commercial property." Amanda laughed outright this time. "Commercial?" She turned to Megan again. "He said commercial, Megan. Isn't that adorable?" From the corner, a security guard straightened. His hand rested casually near his radio. Amanda noticed, satisfied. Then she lifted her phone, snapped a quick picture of David, and began typing rapidly. Within seconds, the photo appeared in the company's private Slack channel. Suspicious individual in showroom pretending to be a buyer. Security alerted. Replies came fast. "Looks like the guy who came last month." Different one. They all look alike, though. Their laughter existed in pixels, but it filled the room all the same. Near the entrance, an intern named Lena Zhao live-streamed her coffee run to Instagram. Her camera accidentally caught everything. Amanda's dismissive tone, the flung brochure, the laughter. Comments began appearing on her screen in real time. "This is racist AF." "Where is this, NYC?" "Record everything." The number of viewers climbed. 78, 146, 312. At that moment, Tom Bradley, the branch manager, emerged from the frosted glass doors of the executive suite. Late 40s, salt and pepper hair, expensive suit, the kind of man who believed leadership was posture, not principle. "What's happening here?" Tom asked. Amanda straightened, switching to her professional smile. "This gentleman claims he's here to discuss commercial properties." Tom's expression tightened. "Claims?" he repeated, his tone dripping skepticism. "Yes," she said. "And he's refusing to provide any proof of income." Tom's eyes flicked over David. The clothes, the calm demeanor, the skin color. His verdict was silent but immediate. "Sir, I'll need to see identification, he said. David reached into his jacket, pulling out his driver's license. As he did, a first-class boarding pass peeked out, JFK to Dubai, dated yesterday. Tom's gaze brushed over it but dismissed it instantly. He studied the ID longer than necessary. This address, Central Park West? Yes, David replied. You rent there? I own the building, David said simply. Amanda's laugh rang out like a champagne glass shattering. Right, she said, rolling her eyes. Tom handed back the license, his expression stiff. Mr. Cole, we cater to serious investors with documented financial portfolios. People with verifiable wealth. David's tone didn't change. Do you? Tom blinked. Excuse me? David gestured around the showroom. Because from what I've seen, you cater to appearances, not investors. Amanda crossed her arms. Security cameras are recording everything, sir. If you refuse to leave, we'll have evidence for the police report. Unknowingly, she had just sealed her own fate. David glanced at his watch, a plain black Timex, modest among luxury brands. Before you involve law enforcement, he said softly, you might want to review your employee handbook, Section 5.2, Client Treatment and Non-Discrimination. Tom froze. How do you know about that? David smiled faintly. Let's just say I make it my business to know these things. Before Tom could respond, a new voice entered the room, firm, female, authoritative. Tom, what's going on out here? All eyes turned as Victoria Lang, the senior regional agent, strode in. Perfectly tailored Armani suit, cold, assessing eyes. 20 years of polished discrimination disguised as professionalism. Mr. Cole, Tom said quickly. He's claiming interest in commercial properties. Claiming, she echoed, her lips twisting around the word like poison. That's interesting. She stepped closer, heels clicking against marble. Mr. Cole, commercial real estate begins at $50 million. Usually handled by corporate investors, not walk-ins. David's voice stayed calm. Understood, do you? She asked, smiling thinly. Because you don't exactly match our client demographic. Her words lingered like a bad perfume. Across the showroom, a client coughed uncomfortably. The intern's live stream continued. 600 viewers now, comments multiplying. This is wild. It's 2025 and this still happens? Keep filming. Victoria sighed theatrically. Security, please escort this gentleman out. He's disrupting business. David didn't move. Instead, he opened a leather folio, the kind used by executives and lawyers. The air shifted. Even Amanda sensed something had changed. I'd like a copy of your corporate handbook, he said. The section on client interaction protocols. Victoria laughed, sharp and humorless. That's internal material, not available to the public. I see, David said, his tone surgical. And who determines which clients are considered public? Tom's jaw clenched. Look, friend, you're making our actual customers uncomfortable. A quiet voice from the corner interrupted. He's not the problem. It was Mrs. Livingston, the elderly woman in Chanel, still holding her champagne. You are. Her statement hung heavy in the air. Amanda turned pale. David looked at his phone. A brief flash of a notification. Executive meeting. Cole and Partners HQ, 5th floor conference room. The name Cole and Partners glowed faintly on the lock screen. He looked up, smiling for the first time. Perhaps I should speak to someone who actually runs this company. Tom frowned. And who might that be? David slipped a black access card from his pocket, gold letters engraved across the surface. He didn't hand it over yet. He just said quietly, "Why don't you call upstairs and find out?" Tom frowned, the faint twitch in his jaw betraying irritation. Upstairs? He repeated, half laughing. Sir, those floors are for executives. You need a clearance card for those elevators. David said nothing. He just slipped the black access card between two fingers, the gold lettering catching the light. The logo, Cole and Partners Real Estate Group, gleamed across the surface. For the first time, Amanda's perfect posture wilted. Tom hesitated. Where did you get that card? David met his gaze calmly. Same place I got this. From the leather folio, he drew out a single embossed letter. Ivory paper, the company crest stamped in gold. He placed it gently on the marble desk. The silence that followed was dense enough to hear every heartbeat in the room. Amanda's hand trembled as she read the header. Her voice faltered. "It says, Internal Audit Division." Tom stepped forward, snatching the page. His eyes widened as he reached the signature line. David Cole, Chief Executive Officer. The air left the room all at once. The click of phones, the chatter, even the faint hum of Central Park traffic beyond the windows. Everything went silent. Amanda's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her iPhone slipped from her fingers and hit the marble with a shattering crack. David finally spoke. "Now," he said softly, "would you like to continue the conversation about who qualifies as a legitimate client?" Tom's throat bobbed. "Mr. Cole, we had no idea." "That," David interrupted, "is the problem." Mrs. Livingston, still holding her champagne glass, muttered, "My word." She looked at Amanda, disgust plain on her face. "You spoke to the owner of this building like that?" The intern's live stream count surged past 1,000 viewers. Comments flooded in. "He's the CEO?" Plot twist of the year. "This is going viral." Amanda's pale face flushed crimson. "Sir, I didn't recognize you." David's expression didn't change. "And if I weren't your CEO, if I were just another black man asking for investment listings, would I still deserve respect?" Her answer came out as a broken whisper. I don't know." "Then maybe," he said quietly, "you should start there." Tom tried to recover his composure, tugging at his cufflinks. "Mr. Cole, if you'll allow me to explain..." "Explain what?" David cut him off again, the warmth gone from his tone. "That discrimination is policy when no one's watching? That prejudice passes for professionalism here?" Behind him, the elevator chimed. Every head turned as two more figures entered the showroom. Diana Hughes, head of human resources, sharp-featured, calm, already aware of the situation thanks to a dozen Slack alerts, and Marcus Reed, head of corporate security. Both carried tablets and expressions that meant trouble. "Mr. Cole," Diana said, voice steady but reverent, "I saw the footage. We're pulling the internal recordings now." "Good," David replied. "We'll need them for compliance review." Amanda burst into tears. Mascara streaked down her cheeks, smudging her flawless mask. "Please, I didn't know. I thought..." David's gaze softened just slightly. "That I didn't belong here?" She looked down, unable to answer. The elevator doors slid open again, revealing a mirrored interior lined with gold trim. David stepped forward but paused at the threshold. He turned to the trio who had just destroyed their careers. "I'll see you all upstairs in 15 minutes, he said evenly. "Bring your identification cards, company phones, and whatever dignity you have left." Tom swallowed hard. "Sir, what's going to happen?" "What always happens," David replied. "Accountability." The doors closed with a quiet chime, leaving behind only stunned silence and the soft echo of Amanda's sobs. The elevator climbed through layers of marble and glass, the city shrinking below. Inside, David exhaled slowly. The reflection staring back at him in the mirror was not the man they'd seen downstairs. Gone was the modest polo. In its place, a charcoal gray suit awaited in a garment bag, pressed to perfection. He changed quickly in the private washroom connected to the executive lobby. When he stepped out, cufflinks gleamed like quiet authority. Patricia Ward, Senior VP of Legal, was waiting. "It's bad," she said without preamble. "Social media is already running with the video. We've identified the intern who streamed it live." "Leave her alone," David said. "She did what ethics demanded." Patricia nodded grimly. "Understood. Our exposure, though, that's another matter. Federal Fair Housing Act violations, hostile work environment claims, civil damages. The initial estimate is between 50 and 80 million, David didn't flinch. Then we clean house. 12 executives waited around a mahogany table large enough to seat a small nation. A panoramic view of Manhattan glimmered beyond floor-to-ceiling windows. Sarah Nguyen, CFO, tapped her tablet. Footage from the intern stream has already hit 200,000 views in the first hour. CNN and Reuters have requested statements. Robert King, corporate counsel, added, "We've logged at least 21 prior complaints of discrimination over the last 6 months." None escalated because local management buried them. David took his seat at the head of the table, folding his hands. Then this isn't an isolated incident. It's systemic. The room fell silent. Effective immediately, he continued. We're suspending operations at the Madison Avenue branch pending full investigation. Every employee involved will be placed on leave until HR completes interviews. Patricia interjected. What about media response? We don't hide, David said. We lead. Amanda, Tom, and Victoria sat in the smaller glass-walled conference room, awaiting the inevitable. The intern, Lena, had been asked to stay as witness. Marcus Reed stood guard by the door, tablet in hand. When David entered, the room shifted. Every conversation, every breath halted. He remained standing, refusing the chair. Authority didn't need comfort. Let's make this quick, he began. Tom Bradley, a branch manager. 6 prior complaints ignored. Victoria Lang, senior agent, 3 clients denied service for subjective reasons. Amanda Whitmore, receptionist. Today's incident, broadcast live to the world. Amanda winced. The live stream was still trending. David tapped the tablet in front of him. Screens lit up around the room, replaying the footage from multiple angles. Amanda's sneer, the slung brochure, the laughter. Each second dragged like an eternity. Does anyone here dispute what we're seeing? He asked quietly. No one spoke. Good. Then let's talk consequences. Mr. Bradley, David said, turning first to Tom, you built an office culture where prejudice thrived. Leadership isn't about the numbers you post. It's about the values you enforce. Tom's voice cracked. Sir, please. I've given 20 years to this company and undone it in 10 minutes, David replied. He turned to Victoria. You, Ms. Lang, weaponized professionalism. You made bias look elegant. That's the most dangerous kind. Victoria's mask of composure fractured. I was protecting the company image. David raised an eyebrow. By humiliating clients? Her silence was answer enough. Finally, he faced Amanda. Do you understand the magnitude of what you've done? Tears streamed freely now. I was wrong. I was stupid. I'll do anything to fix it. You can start, David said, by listening. He pressed a button on his tablet. The speakers filled the room with the voice of Mrs. Livingston, recorded minutes earlier as she filed a formal complaint. I've witnessed this behavior more than once. It's not an accident. It's the culture. Amanda covered her face. David looked around the table. This isn't just about one incident. This is about who we are when nobody's watching. Patricia entered, handing him a folder. Inside were legal forms, termination letters, non-disclosure agreements, HR reports. David closed it gently. You'll each meet with legal upstairs. After that, HR will escort you from the building, Tom finally snapped. You're ruining our lives! David's tone remained even. No. You ruined them the moment you decided respect was conditional. He turned toward the glass wall where Lena stood frozen, phone still in hand. Miss Zhao, he said. Thank you for your integrity. HR will discuss an internship extension. Full scholarship if you want journalism school. Her eyes widened. Sir, thank you. He nodded once. Truth deserves reward, not punishment. When David stepped back into the elevator, Marcus Reed followed. Sir, Marcus said quietly, I've worked here 15 years. Seen things, but no one ever did what you just did. David offered a faint smile. Then it's about time someone did. As the doors closed, Marcus added, You changed everything today. David looked out toward the skyline as they ascended. Not yet, he said. But we've started. The executive floor hummed with quiet urgency. Assistants moved like shadows. Doors whispered open and shut, and screens updated in synchronized pulses of market data and news alerts. In the largest conference room, the skyline stretched end to end, Manhattan glittering like 1,000 decisions waiting to be made. David didn't sit at first. He stood at the head of the table, fingertips resting on the polished edge, steady as a metronome. The board waited, a dozen faces neutral by training and unsettled by reality. Let's begin, he said. Sarah Nguyen, CFO, slid a chart onto the main screen. We're down 6% intraday. Sentiment is volatile, but not irrecoverable if we move fast and publicly. Robert King, legal counsel, followed with bullet points that sounded like verdicts. We have at least 23 documented instances of discriminatory denials or hostile treatment in the last 6 months. Federal Fair Housing Act violations are clear. State claims are likely. Section 1981 exposure is significant. If patterns are deemed systemic, punitive damages escalate. Numbers, David said softly. Put them up, Robert nodded. A second slide appeared. Projected liability ranges. A widening cone of risk. 50 to 80 million, Sarah said. Higher if class certification is pursued. The room absorbed it the way rooms like this do, with quiet calculation. No one flinched. Executives seldom do, outwardly. David turned to Patricia Ward, HR. What happened to the prior complaints? Bottlenecked at the branch level, she answered. Filed as customer mismatch or security precaution. Padded with jargon, buried with busy work. We lacked a vertical escalation trigger for civil rights-related incidents. David's jaw tightened. That ends today. He tapped the table once. A screen on the far wall lit with a grid of time-stamped clips, internal camera angles from the showroom. No narration, no excuses, just light capturing truth. The room watched Amanda's smirk, Tom's posture, Victoria's polished cruelty, Mrs. Livingston's small, steady outrage, Lena's terrified courage. When it ended, the view returned to David. That's our brand, when no one thinks the brand is watching. A silence followed. Heavier than any number on the slide. We can outlawyer some of this, Robert said carefully. We cannot out-ethic it. Exactly, David replied. So we don't try. He moved to policy, his voice shifting from indictment to architecture. Effective immediately. He counted on deliberate fingers. 1. A permanent civil rights escalation desk reporting directly to my office and legal. Any employee can trigger it. It overrides local management. 2. Every branch manager is recertified within 60 days. Anyone failing training or audit loses the chair. No exceptions. 3. Client interaction analytics go live. Call transcripts, floor mics, email, and chat scans. Automated flags for coded exclusions, mockery, and denial patterns. Human review within 24 hours. 4. Restitution. We identify harmed clients and offer concrete remedies. Fee reversals, accelerated showings, prioritized listings, closing cost grants. Money does not repair humiliation, but it answers it. 5. Public posture, full accountability, no hedging. We will not hide behind policy misunderstandings. We say the word discrimination. Then we show the fix. Heads around the table nodded. Not a performance nod, an alignment one. Sarah added, we front-load the cost on the call. Markets punish ambiguity more than bad news. David glanced at her, approving. Prep the Q&A. An assistant slipped in with a tablet. They're here, she whispered. Bring them, David said. The glass doors opened. Tom Bradley, eyes ashy. Victoria Lang, immaculate and shaken. Amanda Whitmore, mascara drowned. Marcus Reed, head of security, walked with them but not among them. More witness than escort. David gestured to 3 chairs opposite the board and remained standing. This is not a negotiation. It is a record. He turned to Tom first. 23 years, good quarters, tidy dashboards. 6 unaddressed complaints in your tenure. Culture is what you tolerate. You tolerated rot. Tom swallowed. Sir, my intent doesn't house families, David said. Outcomes do. He faced Victoria. Your weapon was tone. Precision polite exclusions. Not a slur, not a raised voice. Just velvet rope. I don't keep rope, her composure cracked. I served the brand. You served a mask, he said. We are not in the mask business, he pivoted to Amanda. You escalated a stereotype into policy in under 5 minutes. Camera, slack, public humiliation. On your best day after this, you will know better than to call cruelty caution. Tears returned. I was wrong. Yes, David said. Today I'm not here to debate the degree. He slid 3 folders forward. 2 paths. Option A, termination for cause. No severance. No reference. Release of footage as part of transparency. You face civil exposure individually. Option B, Immediate resignation. Limited severance, 2 weeks. Non-disclosure agreement covering proprietary systems and internal deliberations, not the facts. Mandatory participation, at your expense, in a restorative justice program we will fund for impacted clients. Full cooperation with our investigation. Tom's mouth twitched. 2 weeks? After decades? 10 minutes undid decades, David said. Don't fight the math. Victoria looked at the skyline, somewhere beyond fear. If we choose B, what happens to our names? Google will have them, David said. The truth will have them. The difference is whether your exit was defiant or contrite. Choose accordingly, Amanda whispered. Can I apologize to the people downstairs? You can join a circle later, David answered. You will not center yourself in their harm today. He nodded to Patricia. She placed pens on the table. Tom signed first, a tremor running through the signature of a man who once believed he owned the room. Victoria followed, every letter exact, like a final act of control. Amanda's pen paused, then moved, then finally set down, a quiet surrender. Patricia collected badges, access cards, phones. Marcus stepped forward. We'll escort you to gather personal items. Tom stopped at the door and turned. Sir, will there be any mercy? David didn't look away. Mercy isn't the opposite of consequence. It's the promise that consequence can teach. The door closed. The room exhaled. Next, David said. Patricia briefed him on the corrective plan rollouts. Sarah cued press talking points. Robert outlined the settlement framework. Restitution pool? David asked. Sarah had it ready. $8.5 million in immediate reform and remediation. We can expand if needed. Expand, David said. We invest more than we apologize. He paced once, then stopped. We also recognize integrity, he signaled the assistant. Marcus Davis, the showroom security officer from downstairs, stepped in, hat in hand, posture respectful but unafraid. David faced him. Mr. Davis, your conduct was steady when others lost theirs. HR will offer you an accelerated path into our safety and inclusion unit if you choose it. Better hours, better pay. Same dignity you brought today. Marcus blinked, stunned. Sir, thank you. Thank you, David said. You protected more than a lobby. He turned to Lena, the intern, now hovering just outside the door, unsure if she belonged in a room like this. You do, David said, inviting her in with a small motion. Courage is a credential. HR will handle the scholarship. Her hand flew to her mouth. I didn't do it for... I know, he said. That's why you get it. A chime from the far screen, the stock, still red, ticked upward by a fraction. Not a triumph, an acknowledgement, Sarah murmured almost to herself. Markets reward clarity and integrity, David added. He looked around the table, taking in the faces of leaders who now had marching orders. We're not going to survive this because we're good at spin, he said. We'll survive because we become different. Robert folded his hands. Press in 2 hours? 75 minutes, David corrected. We don't buy time by stalling. We buy trust by moving. Patricia hesitated. One more question. What about the footage? The internal clips, the grid? We publish portions, David said. Blurred client faces. Clear staff conduct. No montage for entertainment. Context, accountability, and the plan. We protect victims. We expose the system. He checked the time, then his notes. A list not of slogans, but of measures with dates and owners. Draft the open letter, he told Sarah. No euphemisms. No if anyone felt offended. We name it, he looked to Robert. Prep settlement outreach. We go to them first. He looked to Patricia. Training is not a slideshow. It's lived. 40 hours minimum led by people who do this for a living. Attestation is not a checkbox. It's a score with consequences. And the technology? Someone asked. Shipping this quarter, David replied. Real-time flagging? Supervisor accountability. A red light no one can tape over. He finally sat. The chair didn't change his authority. It just meant the next phase had begun. Questions? He asked. There were none that mattered. The room knew the assignment. He stood again. Then we go downstairs into the lobby and talk to the world. As the executives filed out, Sarah lingered. You know this won't make you popular with a certain old guard, David straightened his tie. I didn't take this job to be popular. What did you take it for? She asked. To be useful, he said. To make sure the next person who walks in wearing khakis doesn't need a business card to be human. She smiled, quick and real. See you at the podium. Between the boardroom and the elevator stretched a corridor lined with black glass, reflecting the team in duplicate, real and inverted, present and past. David walked through the middle, flanked by legal, finance, HR, a coalition of consequence, a notification pulsed on his phone. Press holding statement ready. Draft Q&A uploaded. Settlement letters templated. Civil rights desk inbox live. He paused long enough to type a single reply. Publish. The answer came. Live. He stepped into the elevator. The doors slid shut on the reflection of a man who had walked into his own building unnoticed and now carried its future in his pocket. Lobby, he said. The car began to descend. The showroom was quieter. The champagne cart had been rolled away. The brochure rack had been restocked, this time with real investment materials, not thinly veiled insults. Mrs. Livingston waited near the columns, arms crossed in resolute approval. Marcus, now aware of what had unfolded upstairs, stood a half-step taller. Lena checked her phone. A flood of messages, a flood of invitations, and one company-wide email that began, "We failed today. Here is how we will repair it." Customers drifted in cautiously, drawn by curiosity, held by something else, the sense that this was a place trying to be better in public, not just in private. The elevator chimed. David and his team stepped out into the light. He didn't walk to the private entrance or slip into a back corridor. He took the center of the lobby, where the floors gleamed and the news cameras were already assembling behind stanchions. Microphones bobbed. Boom mics hovered. The city held its breath. "Thank you for coming," he began. "Today, in this building, we saw conduct that violates our values and the law. We are not going to minimize it. We are going to change because of it." He nodded once to Marcus, to Lena, to Mrs. Livingston, to everyone who had chosen truth over comfort. "In 72 hours, you will see the first reforms in effect," he said. "In 60 days, you will see an audit report. In 6 months, you will see measurable change, or you will see me step aside." A collective intake of air rustled the lobby. David concluded, not with promise, but with a plan. "We will not ask for your trust," he said. "We will earn it and you can watch." Cameras blinked. The city listened. Somewhere, a line on a stock chart twitched upward again. The reckoning had not ended. It had finally begun pointing forward. The lobby emptied slowly after the press conference, leaving only echoes of camera shutters, of uneasy applause, of a promise made in public. Upstairs, a different kind of noise replaced it. The organized chaos of change. Blueprint for rebuilding at 6 a.m. the next morning. The executive floor was already lit. Patricia Ward's HR team clustered around a digital whiteboard filled with timelines. Red on legal compliance. Blue in training deployment. Green, all's culture metrics. 72 hours to stand up the civil rights desk, Patricia said. 2 weeks for branch manager recertifications. 40 days for the first transparency report. No one argued. Deadlines this tight meant survival. Down the hall, Sarah Nguyen's finance unit crunched numbers. Every column in her spreadsheet was a cost of conscience. Bias training program, $5 million. AI language monitoring system, $2 million. Victim restitution fund, $1 million. Independent diversity audit, $500K. Total, $8.5 million. Price tag of humanity, quantified at last. Sarah exhaled. $8.5 million to buy back trust, she murmured. David, passing behind her, corrected gently. Not buy, earn. Technology as conscience. In a glass-walled lab on the 43rd floor, engineers were already wiring the new oversight platform. The system listened, not to spy, but to surface patterns, delays in service time by demographic, tone shifts in email replies, subtle exclusions in client notes. When bias appeared, a red pulse glowed on the dashboard. Managers received instant notifications. Repeated offenders triggered audits. It's like a heartbeat monitor for fairness, said James Liu, the CTO. Then keep it beating, David replied. Human repair at noon, victims began receiving calls, not from interns or assistants, but from executives themselves. One by one, the families denied homes were offered restitution, waived fees, priority listings, letters of apology signed by the CEO. Mrs. Rodriguez, a physician previously told to try different neighborhoods, wept softly over the phone. "You didn't have to call personally," she said. "I did," David answered. "Because the harm was personal. The gesture became legend within hours. Meanwhile, the culture shock rippled. Long-time brokers whispered that the company had gone political. New hires countered that it had finally gone moral. In break rooms, employees debated tone and tolerance. In training sessions, psychologists unpacked unconscious bias while financial analysts took notes beside receptionists. Power began to feel different, less like hierarchy, more like shared responsibility. Marcus Reed, newly promoted from security guard to safety and inclusion supervisor, opened every session with the same line. "I used to stand at the door to keep people out. Now I stand here to make sure nobody gets pushed out again." Applause followed every time. By the third day, the company's website replaced glossy sales banners with a stark headline, "Committed to equal housing for all." The statement trended instantly. Real estate reform reached 2 million mentions in a week. Analysts on CNBC called it the rare case where ethics moved faster than PR. Stock price climbed back within 2 points of pre-crisis levels. David's email overflowed with invitations, television interviews, university panels, industry summits. He accepted none. "I'll talk when the numbers talk," he told Patricia. "Let results be the interview. Internal reckonings, not everyone survived the transformation." 17 middle managers resigned within a month, unwilling to operate under new accountability metrics. In their place came younger, hungrier agents, diverse in every sense of the word. Recruiting ads read, "We sell property. We don't sell prejudice. Join the firm redefining luxury as decency." Applications tripled. A week later, David stood again behind microphones. Same marble lobby, different energy. This time he wasn't defending. He was reporting. "Our restitution program has reached all 11 documented families," he said. "Every branch now has an inclusion officer with veto authority on client interactions. Our analytics system flags bias in real time, and every employee, from intern to executive, has completed 20 of 40 required training hours." He paused, scanning the crowd. "We promised transparency. Here are the numbers." Behind him, screens displayed live dashboards, 0 discrimination complaints since implementation, 92% client satisfaction rebound, 37% minority staff representation, up from 16. Reporters scribbled furiously. Flashbulbs flickered. David's final line silenced them again. "Accountability isn't a crisis response," he said. "It's the new business model." That night, alone in his office, he finally exhaled. The skyline outside glittered, too perfect, almost mocking. On his desk sat 3 envelopes containing signed resignation agreements from Amanda, Tom, and Victoria. Next to them, a note from Marcus. "Thank you for making justice a job description." He smiled faintly. Leadership, he realized, wasn't about commanding applause. It was about enduring the silence that followed after you told the truth. Within weeks, 12 other real estate giants requested copies of Cole & Partners' bias training modules. 5 universities added the Cole Protocol to business ethics curricula. The National Association of Realtors adopted its first ever, inclusive, client treatment standard. Even competitors began posting transparency dashboards, proof that conscience had gone contagious. Amanda Whitmore, the once arrogant receptionist, completed her mandated program and joined a nonprofit connecting low-income buyers with fair finance lenders. Tom Bradley, ex-manager, resurfaced in a small Utah brokerage, by all accounts, humbler, kinder. Victoria Lang reinvented herself as a consultant on corporate culture reform, teaching others what humiliation had taught her. Consequences had done what apologies never could. Changed behavior. 6 months later. The showroom gleamed as it always had, but the energy had shifted. Clients of every background mingled freely. Staff greeted them by name, not by judgment. On the wall where the top seller plaque once hung, a digital display now tracked daily inclusion metrics, real-time honesty instead of trophies. A journalist entered with a camera crew. It was Lina Zhao, no longer an intern but a journalism school scholar. Her documentary Hidden Bias: The Cole Case had won national attention. "Mr. Cole?" she asked, microphone in hand. Looking back, what did you learn? David considered carefully. That accountability and compassion aren't opposites, he said. They're the only partnership worth investing in. Legacy in motion, as the camera panned across the marble lobby. It caught new faces, Kesha Williams at reception, Marcus in a tailored uniform, Patricia guiding new hires through orientation. The firm's motto gleamed on a brass plaque by the door. Luxury is nothing without decency. Lina's documentary would end on that shot. The city glitters beneath the spring sun. Central Park swells with green again. Yellow cabs trace slow constellations through traffic. And on 57th Street, the polished brass doors of Cole and Partners open onto a new era. Inside, the same marble floor gleams, but everything else hums with quiet evolution. Gone are the champagne flutes and whispered hierarchies. In their place, laughter, conversation, genuine welcome. At the front desk sits Kesha Williams, 30, MBA from Wharton, calm and radiant in a crisp navy suit. Her greeting carries warmth that feels earned, not scripted. "Good morning," she says to each visitor. "Welcome home." The phrase was her idea, and David Cole insisted it stay. Every client who walks in here should feel they belong before they buy. Digital panels line the lobby walls. They don't show property listings anymore, they show progress. 365 days, bias-free customer satisfaction, 4.8, 5 stars, minority representation, 43% and rising. Every employee can see the numbers change in real time. When the data rises, the staff cheers. When it dips, they gather to fix it together. In the corner, Marcus Reed, now Director of Safety and Inclusion, runs his morning briefing. The same man who once guarded the door now sets the tone for every one of them. Respect is security, he tells new hires. You can't keep a building safe if you don't keep its people safe. Across the industry, the Cole method becomes case study and verb. Universities teach it in business ethics courses. Law firms cite it in diversity compliance briefs. Real estate boards worldwide rewrite their codes of conduct. In London, Tokyo, São Paulo, executives watch clips of David's first press conference, the one where he refused, excuses, and call it the turning point. Corporate transparency went mainstream that day, says one analyst on Bloomberg. He turned damage control into reform policy. Meanwhile, the firm's market share climbs higher than pre-crisis levels. Investors realize what the public already has, that inclusion isn't charity, it's competitive advantage. Redemption finds the people who dared to face it. Amanda. Whitmore now manages outreach at Haven Housing Network, helping families who once would have been turned away. Her apology wasn't performative, it became her career. Tom Bradley, the former manager, moved west to a small agency in Colorado. He tells every new trainee the same story. Don't judge anyone who walks through your door. You never know who built the building. Victoria Lang rebuilt her name as a diversity culture consultant. Her presentations begin with a single slide. I failed first. Learn faster than I did. Each one proves that consequence can be the first step of conscience. On a bright May afternoon, Lina Zhao returns, camera in hand, press badge around her neck. Her documentary Hidden Bias: The Cole Case has won 3 journalism awards and sparked an entire streaming series franchise on systemic reform. She's here for a follow-up interview. David greets her with the same quiet grace he carried that first day, the man who could command boardrooms by whispering the truth. "Mr. Cole," Lina begins. "A year later, what's changed the most?" He considers the question. "The silence," he says finally. Before, people stayed silent because they were afraid to speak. Now they're silent because they're listening. Lena smiles. And what did you learn personally? That authority means nothing if it isn't used to protect those without it. You don't lead to be feared. You lead so others feel safe enough to be honest. Her camera light glows red. The words will anchor the documentary's closing scene. In the training center upstairs, fresh recruits watch the viral footage from that first incident, now part of the onboarding curriculum. They don't watch to gawk. They watch to understand. After the clip ends, an instructor asks, "What do you see?" A young agent raises her hand. "Power used right." Another adds, "A mistake turned into policy." The instructor nods. "Exactly. We don't erase our history here. We study it until it never repeats." By the end of the fiscal year, 16 other major real estate companies have implemented bias monitoring AI systems modeled after Cole & Partners. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development cites the firm in its annual report as an example of voluntary compliance excellence. Over 500 families nationwide gain homeownership through the company's new Equal Access initiative. David receives invitations from governments and universities alike, but the only one he accepts is from a community college in Harlem. "I'm not here to lecture," he tells students. "I'm here to listen. You're the ones who'll decide if equality is permanent or trending." They give him a standing ovation anyway. Later that night, David walks through the same marble showroom alone. The lights are low. The city glows outside like a constellation he's finally mapped. He stops where it all began, the reception desk where a brochure once landed at his feet. Now a fresh stack sits there, glossy and new. The cover reads, "Building Equity, Not Just Real Estate." He smiles, tracing the embossed lettering. Justice, he thinks, is quieter than revenge, and far more expensive but worth every cent. Through the glass doors, he sees Marcus locking up for the evening. "Good night, boss," Marcus calls. "Good night," David answers. "See you tomorrow." Lena's documentary ends on that image. The CEO walking out into the New York night, streetlights glinting off marble as the doors close behind him. Her narration plays softly. Change doesn't start in boardrooms or courtrooms. It starts in moments, when one person decides that silence costs too much. David Cole didn't just reform a company. He reminded a city that dignity can be policy. And sometimes, the most powerful revolution happens in a conversation that finally goes right.